Hello, everybody. I hope you're all having a wonderful day so far. My name is Zainab Hamid, and I'm a development coordinator here at JA Dallas. Welcome back to session 6 of our JA Bold Girls Summit. Today, we have an incredible group of panelists and volunteers joining us from Iberia Bank, Frost Bank, and Regions Bank. So a huge thank you to these organizations for sponsoring this session and making it possible. So in this session today, we will go over how to build a personal brand and the importance of having a personal brand. So now before we do get started, we do have a quick survey for all the students to take. Those who complete both pre and post session survey will be entered to win a raffle to win a $25 gift card. So we will choose 2 winners at the end of the day today. So I'm going to give everybody a minute to complete the survey, and I put the link in the chat box. Perfect. So while everybody else is finishing up the survey, today we will be having our main panel starting here in a couple of minutes, and then we'll show a short video, and afterwards we will have our moderated Q&A. Now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming our moderator, Anna Pullen.
Thanks, Zainab. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anna Pullen, and I'll be this afternoon's moderator. I am a campus recruiter at JPMorgan Chase, and today we have special panelists and breakout volunteers with us from Iberia Bank and Regions Bank. So please join me in welcoming today's panelists. So we have Liz Scott from Iberia Bank, Senior Relationship Banker, Lisa Palmer, Iberia Bank, VP Branch Manager Dual, and Margaret Tufton from Iberia Bank as well, Commercial Portfolio Manager. So thank you all for joining us, and let's get started. So we'll go through a couple questions, and we'll learn more about building our personal brand. So to get us started off, Margaret, I'm going to ask you, what is the importance of building a brand?
Yeah, so building a brand is very important because it doesn't matter if you're working for a company or if it's your own personal brand, you know, it goes with you throughout your career. A lot of people think of branding, they think of big companies like Starbucks, Walmart, Amazon. And when I think about branding, you know, how does that make you feel? And you want to be a part of a brand that makes you feel good, that stands for something that you believe in. That's important too. And the same with your personal brand. How do you want other people to see you as well?
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Margaret. Liz or Lisa, anything to add on that? If not, that's okay. We can move right along. Lisa, I'm going to turn it over to you. How do you even go about building a personal brand?
Thank you. I think you need to kind of step back and take a look at what you like, what you enjoy, maybe talk to your friends and families, classmates to see what they compliment you on, because that's going to be where your strong points are. And then you need to be genuine. You know, you need to really be true to yourself and be have an open mind, because just as Margaret was saying, your personal brand is going to follow you, but it's also going to change as your interest changes, as your experiences change. So you need to be open-minded to that change, because hopefully that's going to put you in a better light and move you towards more positive experiences for your career.
Perfect. That's great. So I love what you said about things changing over time, because you know, I think when I was in high school, I didn't even realize that this was a good time to start a personal brand, but this is something that they should be starting now, and it'll continue on, but it will evolve over time. That's definitely very important. I don't know if Liz is on with us. Liz, are you on? I don't think she is, but we'll continue. All right, so I think we will move back over to Margaret. How did you build your own personal brand?
Well, as Lisa pointed out, it has changed over my career, you know, especially in jobs. I didn't start off in banking. I started off in public health. And as my interests moved towards banking and financial numbers and graphs and helping out small businesses compared to people's health, I changed a little bit with building my brand. One of the things that has been a life lesson too is, especially in working and in life, like no task is too small. So always be willing to help out, even if it's um, taking out the garbage, staying a little bit later, doing menial tasks, stapling. Those things are so important. And it really does teach you, everybody has a different job, different skill set, and it will change over time once you start working and you start figuring out what are your likes, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. And it's okay to move around. It's okay to change things. But yeah, once you get into working and seeing what you like, that'll help build your brand as well. And yeah, no small tasks go unnoticed. So that's kind of how I built my brand.
Perfect. Thanks, Margaret. Lisa, I'm going to ask you the same question. How did you build your own personal brand?
Well, I was a lot like Margaret. I think a lot of us start out thinking we're going to be one thing and we turn out to be something else. I was a public relations major and thought I wanted to be in advertising, and ended up getting into banking and just started growing with that. That started out on teller line, which then I met some really good leaders of the institutions I was working with. And we went on to open up 2 private banks. And I was able to be on that team, which just opened up a huge array of opportunities of learning and growing. And it's been fun the whole time that we're doing it too, because you get to do all kinds of different things and work with different people. And one thing that really kind of helped to build also is I got to know a lot of our clients that I dealt with on a regular basis, and were able to build my brand with them as well, because they begin to trust you and they know that you're going to be there for them and take care of their finances, which is really important to people. And so I think making good connections and being, like Margaret said, being helpful is very important, because like we said at the beginning, this follows you and you need to be aware of that.
Very true. I think those are all fantastic points. So thank you for sharing, Lisa. So we have some fantastic women on the phone here today to learn from you guys about building this personal brand. So what types of tips would you be able to provide a high school student who wants to get a head start in building her own personal brand? And we'll start with Margaret for that one.
Yeah, okay. So the first thing I would think about is what is important to you. Maybe think about, write down 3 goals you want to see in your future, and a few steps on how to achieve those goals. If going to college is a goal, or not going to college, going to learning a skill, those are important too. So write those down to get those steps. And I would start with that part. Just think about what are your goals, and then how are you going to achieve those goals in those SMART steps. They can be small, like, submitting an application or knocking on somebody's door, asking for a job. Those things are important. So I would start there.
Perfect. Thanks, Margaret. And Lisa, I'm going to ask that same question. What tips would you be able to provide a high school student who wants to get a head start in building her own personal brand?
I think if you kind of do a self-assessment of what you enjoy or what is interesting to you, and then delve into that industry, do your research online, find out what all is involved in that arena and who's been really good at it, and then follow them, see what choices those people have made. It can be a major company that it has a big profile online, and you go to those sites and follow those individuals and just do your research. And if it turns out to be something I don't think I really like that, then go on to the next point. What else is interesting to me? till you get to where something that really sparks your curiosity.
Perfect. I love that. Yes. I think getting a self-assessment really will help you figure out, what do I even like? Because you want to be able to do something later on in your life that you actually enjoy. So I think that's very important. Liz, I think you may have joined. Are you on with us? Oh, her microphone's not working. That's okay. All right. Well, we will just continue on. Now let's go into a little bit more about, how do you build a personal brand? What are the parts of building a personal brand? I think social media is definitely something that is getting more important, more relevant nowadays as well. So, Margaret, what would be your top social media tips for these students as they're trying to build a personal brand? What's important about that?
Yeah, social media is ever changing. I think one thing is important is just to, monitor what you're posting on social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. They will get it does get back. A lot of employers look at that stuff. Once it's on the internet, it's always out there. So just be mindful, if there's a picture that you would be embarrassed about an employer seeing or your boss, then it's probably not a good idea to post that. So just be mindful, but social media does have really great tools. Twitter, for news outlets, getting, just the company brand is so important as well. It can reach a vast number of people than just word of mouth. So social media is an extremely important platform, and Iberia Bank, First Horizon, we use it, and all for the good. And so, yeah, so that's watch what you're posting out there, though.
Definitely could not agree more with that. But I love what you said. I mean, your own companies are doing it. That's what so many companies are moving towards. I mean, they have different departments that, that's their main job, is to run their social media accounts and making sure that, what's being posted is appropriate. And that's going to start with you guys making sure you're thinking about that now. So definitely watch what you're posting for sure. Lisa, any other tips that you would provide about, social media for these girls right now?
No, I think Margaret was spot on. I think that it's really important to be aware of what you're posting. Make sure it's positive postings and not negative, because that will also follow you. And just, make sure you're looking at different avenues, like LinkedIn, putting down your information there. I think that's a lot of companies use that, and I think that's a really good tool.
Very much agree. I know I spend a majority of my day on LinkedIn, so I can tell you it is important in the banking world, especially. I see a lot of posts, and there's a lot of great content out there that you can start, consuming now. So I would definitely recommend, getting more into that and making an account. I know could seem a little bit early, but it's definitely a great opportunity to start learning and start learning more. So thank you both for that. So let's switch over a little bit to resumes, interviews, that sort of thing. I know in my own job, every single day I look at tons of resumes. So it's very important that, you have a great resume. So I'm sure both of you have had to look at your fair share of resumes as, new people come in or you do interviews. So what would be a key to having just the best resume? What's one thing that you've seen that is a deal breaker? Anything around resumes? Lisa, I'll start back with you with this.
Well, I tell you, I think it needs to be very clean and concise, and it's not an art project. Probably want to limit your fonts, because I know I've seen some that are very creative, but they really don't have any meat to them. So that would be my first tip. And then also, when you're applying for a company, make sure you use some of the keywords that they used in their posting. I think that's very helpful. And just keep it concise.
Yes, that's great. Especially around the fonts and keeping things clean and concise. I think it can vary depending on what kind of job you're applying for. Maybe a graphic designer, then yeah, sure, make it look fancy and different fonts. But for a lot of roles, just think about what industry you want to go into and more tailor it towards that, especially like what Lisa said with the specific word choices that you're using. Margaret, any other tips about resumes of what you want to see or maybe what doesn't look good, what you've seen before?
Yeah, I agree with Lisa. The shorter, the better, the 1 page, 2 pages max. It really is just to get your foot in the door. And then once you meet the company or the person you're interviewing with, that's when you sell yourself. And so just like Lisa said, it's those key words to get yourself in the door. And always, I've noticed what's fun when you're raising resumes is to definitely put your interest. So if you're interested in graphic novels, if you're interested in playing lacrosse, field hockey, any sports thing or movies, that is a great conversation topic to talk about with an employer, and it's relatable. So think about the stuff you enjoy in school and what you're into, and usually you'll meet people that have those same interests. So that will help you also get in the door as well.
Perfect. That's great. And let's see, moving on to my next question. This is kind of a tough one to ask or to answer, I guess, but what mistakes have you made on a previous interview or resume that you'd be comfortable sharing with us today? And Margaret, I'll start with you on that.
Yeah, this one's hard to admit too. So I think one of the biggest mistake I've ever made is I went into an interview a little bit too cocky and confident that I was overqualified for the position, and it came across as, just kind of ungrateful to have an opportunity for the position. And I also didn't research the company as well when I went to go interview, and that hurt a lot. And especially when, you feel you deserve the position and, they didn't give you a second look, it made me reevaluate how I interview and, my responses and stuff. So, it's okay to practice with somebody, especially when you're nervous or, you don't know what type of questions they're going to ask. It's always good to practice because everybody's nervous. Everyone gets tripped up with questions. So yeah, that was one of my unprepared interview stories.
Thank you. And let's see, Lisa, I'll go to you real quick for an answer on this. Any mistake that you'd like to share with us this afternoon?
Yeah, just like Margaret, do your research. Make sure you know who you're interviewing with. And I tell you a good tip, and I didn't learn this until much later, is write a thank you card. You know who you're going to be interviewing with. Write a thank you card before the interview, and after the interview, drop it in the mail. And I think that speaks volumes, that you really appreciate their time.
Yes, I've seen different managers change their minds after interviews, after getting a thank you note. So it can definitely go a long way. I appreciate that answer. All right, and to round out this afternoon's questions here, I have one final question for the both of you. Lisa, I'll start with you. What did you want to be when you were 16?
I wanted to be an archaeologist. I just wanted to find something and, change the world. Went to Arkansas and dug for diamonds, and that was as far as I got.
I love that. That's definitely very interesting. Thank you. And Margaret, what did you want to be when you were 16?
There were two. I wanted to be a lifeguard, and then I did become a lifeguard in college during the summertime. And then I also thought I wanted to be a doctor. And so what I did is I volunteered in one of the hospitals, and I realized it wasn't my thing. So, if you ever think you have an interest in what you want to do, definitely try it out, because it might not be where you end up in life or really your skill set. So
that's definitely a great way to tie it back together. You're exactly right. Sometimes, it might just end up being a hobby, something you like on the side, an interest, but may not be your lifelong career. Well, I wanted to thank you both again, and thank you to our incredible sponsors for making this session possible, Frost Bank, Regions, and Iberia Bank. I hope everyone learned something new from our panelists today. And now I'm going to turn the session back over to Nikki West. She's the Senior Manager of Major Events and Giving at JA. So thank you, Nikki.
Again, a big round of virtual applause to our awesome moderator, Anna Pullen, and our great panelists. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know I definitely did. So I am going to not speak too long. We are about to show a really quick video that goes into more detail about some of the topics that our panelists touched on and about personal branding.
Good evening. I'm going to talk to you this evening about personal branding, but I think we should probably first start with what personal branding is not. Personal branding is not what you post on Facebook, how you respond on Twitter. That's a whole other conversation. What we're going to talk about tonight is personal branding, the perception that you have of yourself and that others have of you, and when that convenes. And we're going to spend some time talking about that because along the way, working with corporate brands, I picked up a tip or two that I want you to think about. I would not be so bold to say that I'm going to give you advice because I know better, but I'll give you a few things to think about. At this point, you have charged full force through elementary school to middle school, from middle school to high school, lots of successes. The fastest, the most academically acclaimed. Now you're readying yourself for the big launch of your brand. And I'm going to tell you the first thing that I want you to do. I'm going to drop the F-bomb on you. Don't worry. I'm going to keep it PG. I want you to fail. I want you to fail so spectacularly. The kind of failure that like punches you in the gut, takes you to your knees, and you wallow around in how horrible it is. Because how you react to that failure will be the sustainability of your personal brand. For were it not for failure, we wouldn't have the Hershey Kiss, my beloved iPhone, nor would we have Walt Disney World. Steve Jobs was ousted from his own company. Milton Hershey closed down 2 chocolate factories before, well, they were candy companies, before he founded Hershey. And Walt Disney was told countless times that he lacked creativity. But they survived because of how they reacted to failure. You're also going to be told along the way to follow your dreams. I'm going to ask you not to do that. Dreams have limits. Dreams can be walked away from. But if you find something that you feel passionately about, be it your career path, how you volunteer your time, or what you do behind closed doors, if you feel passionately about it, parameters will not exist. You will forge forward when you hit that failure, and your personal brand will be stronger on the other side. Because the final thing I want you to consider when you're launching your personal brand is that it's ubiquitous. As you move to your 20s, your 30s, heaven forbid your 40s, no, that's hard to imagine at this point. Outwardly, you'll look the same. Outwardly, no, you won't. Outwardly, you'll look differently. Inwardly, you'll be the same. And what I want you to consider is the self-awareness that you've gained along the way. Because the true value of your personal brand is when you value yourself and others have valued you, and you're able to take criticism not as a tearing down, but as a point for reflection and to make yourself better. So as you move into the future and you launch your personal brand, I want you to do so passionately. I want you to fail spectacularly. Feel so passionately that you don't care that you failed, and then be self-aware enough to make it better and know the value that you bring to others. Thank you.
Awesome. I hope you guys all enjoyed that video. I know I definitely did. So without further ado, I am excited to introduce our breakout volunteers today. Candace Hollings with Regions Bank. She is a AVP, Commercial Relationship Team Administrator. Vanessa Hogans, also from Regions Bank. She is a Commercial Relationship Assistant. Tristan Wilson with Frost Bank. She is a Community Development Officer. Okay, awesome. I am excited to get started. So the first question is to Candace. So in the video, the presenter touched on, I want you to fail spectacularly. Has there been a personal failure or maybe learning opportunity that has happened in your life that helped shape who you are today, and what was it?
I would have to say yes. That would be at my time at First Convenience Bank. I was the assistant branch manager at one of their largest locations, and I was tasked with a project to help get our personal bankers ahead on a sales goal. And I put it off and was focused on hitting my own sales goal versus leading my team at that particular time. I was extremely young, barely 21 at the time. And as a result, our whole branch missed their goal. I made mine, but my branch missed it. And it really, really shaped and changed my perspective to truly focus on other people versus myself. Because I thought I would have time to do both, and I didn't.
Absolutely. I think that's one thing, especially I know for myself, when you're younger and you're growing within, climbing that career ladder, just to make sure you focus on the team goals. Because if the team meets their goal, you'll also most likely meet your goal. Everybody is stronger as a team. That's a great story. Thank you for that. Tristan, this one is for you. So what would your personal tagline be? I know we talked earlier, and so did the presenter in the video, about personal brand. So what would your personal tagline be?
Wow, that's really a great question. My personal tagline, well, my name is actually Tristan Page Wilson. And I also do a lot of work in the community. And so my organization has been called Turning Pages. And it's just about not giving up in life and always remembering that you can continue to turn the pages, that just giving up isn't an option. So on one page, it might have said you fell down, but you could turn the page to page 2 and it says you got up again. And I think I take that in my life, but also just in my career as well, knowing that even when you hit doors of that feel like rejection or something feels like failure, that you can get up and continue turning the pages in your life to get to another chapter.
Awesome. So I actually like this question. So I'm going to ask Vanessa, I'm going to ask you the same thing. What would your personal tagline be?
My personal tagline would be, "To thine self be true." It is my favorite, one of my favorite quotes. And I think it carries you throughout your entire life. I think it's important to really get to know who you are. Everything that we do, everything that all of our experiences, our goals, the people that we connect with is a reflection of who we are. So take the time now to get to know who you are. You're in a beautiful stage in life. You can just explore. Ask your family, ask your friends, what are some of my strengths? Where do you think I could grow, areas I can grow in? And it doesn't always have to be career related. It could just be things that you do around the house or how you connect with people. When you're in the workforce, it's important to have interpersonal skills, being calm in situations, a person who can handle a lot of stress, people who can be compassionate towards others, be compassionate towards your clients when you're working with them. So I would just say, to thyself be true, explore who you are. It will carry you in life.
Absolutely. Thank you. Candace, same question. What is your personal tagline?
Mine would be, see people, not the company. So the turning point, referring back to the first question you asked me, that was a huge turning point for me. And that particular event shifted my focus 100%. I love people to begin with, but I am remembered, I guess you can say my brand typically carries not based on the company I work for, or the church I go to, or the people I'm associated with, but typically what I'm remembered by is how I see people and how much I'll go and do for people and just support them versus, hey, I'm more focused on a company or a bottom line versus seeing the person that's in front of me and how I can impact their lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Tristan, what are some top mistakes that potential hires, new, young recruits, young professionals, maybe coming out of college or just coming out of high school graduation, trying to get a job at Frost Bank? What are some social media mistakes that new hires can make that the students watching online should be aware of to avoid?
Sure. I think that with social media, I think just keeping it, I know some of the other women touched on it a little earlier, but just keeping things very positive, very broad, very light. If it's something that you feel like you would be embarrassed if an employer saw, to stay away from that, because those things do stay online, they do carry. And when you're working for a company, I know I'm working for Frost, our culture is very important to us, and they expect it to also be not just the company's culture, but your personal, what you live by. And so you want that to be reflected, who you are, your core values, to be reflected on your social media and not things that may stray from that.
Absolutely. Even if you delete it, it still exists and a potential employer can find it. So be forewarned as you guys are going out into the workforce. Vanessa, this one is for you. I'm sure you've been on, a few interviews before Regions Bank or even within Regions Bank. What are some good top interview questions that you like to ask an employer at the end of a conversation?
Good. I like to ask the question, how will I know if I'm doing my job well? That way you can figure out what they're looking for. And it's important to know that even though you are applying for a position, it's important for you to make sure the job is a good fit for you as well. So you can kind of explore what they're thinking about. Another question I like to ask, um, what are some potential growth opportunities that will come out of this role? And I think that many people are just open to let you know and give you stories of people who have started in your position and moved up to different opportunities within the company.
Awesome. Thank you. Candace, any other interview questions that you like to ask potential employers?
Typically, I ask them what their manager style is. That's really, really important to me. Kind of similar to some of Vanessa's comment of making sure, hey, it's a good fit for you and the employer, not just, hey, my resume fits this box, so hey, put me in there, or hey, the manager likes me, so put me in there. So just asking how their management style is, so then I know, hey, am I gonna perform well underneath their leadership? Yes or no. If they come off and they tell me a style, it may be a great opportunity, great fit. I fit into, my resume fits that box, but just maybe not that particular leadership style. And I may need to, pass on that position for now.
Absolutely. And I think especially as you are a young professional entering the workforce, there are, going to be a lot of entry-level jobs, and it's just making sure, because you might not know yet what you look for in a prospective, company that you want to work for and an employer. But I think just having all of your, all of the things that you need that are your non-negotiables, and just asking those questions about management style, just making sure that you're a good fit. I think that's really key to keep that in mind. Thank you for that, Candace and Vanessa. Tristan, so I know you don't work directly in the marketing department, but why is marketing important to a corporation like Frost Bank?
Sure. So marketing really tells your story, and it gives you an opportunity to connect with people outside of the company. Frost just ran a campaign called for Optimism right kind of the end of 2020. And it was just it gave us an opportunity to reach people all over from all different backgrounds and to connect around a common goal. And I think that's what marketing really does, is it tells your story and it allows you to, whether you're doing business with people or not, have a very human experience of connection with them.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, I know that all of you work for a bank on this call, but I think a misconception that I know a lot of people have, that I know I had coming out of college, is, oh, well, I can't work at Regions Bank, Frost Bank, because I don't have a finance degree, or I don't want to be a personal banker. What kind of, or what jobs, this is going to be for Vanessa, what jobs within Regions are available for a person who is interested in maybe marketing and communications? What kind of jobs are there?
Good question. My degree was in public relations and marketing. So I transitioned into finance. I would say the position that I have now, for starters, is it's a support position. And although it's administrative, we definitely deal with clients. So the way that I communicate with a client, the way that I complete tasks for a client, that is also contributing to the reputation of the bank. I would say another role that's available, there are marketing roles within a financial institution. There are also marketing roles, but there are also administrative roles. There are also finance roles that you don't necessarily have to be an accountant, or that are not finance as a priority. You're still dealing with numbers, but it's important to know how to deal with people as well. There are many people who sometimes have a sociology background, psychology background, because even though we are dealing with numbers, it's important to know we're also dealing with people.
Absolutely. I know I've heard some bankers say that we're not in the business of money, we're in the business of people. So I think that's very important to keep in mind with any kind of, really any job, but also with the financial institution. I know it's traditionally you think of, I think of accounting, CPA, but there are definitely other kinds of roles: support, marketing, admin. Thank you for that. Tristan, back to you at Frost Bank. What non-traditional financial careers or marketing roles are there available to a prospective employee?
Sure. Well, I would say my role, which is a community development officer position, is a unique position because my focus is working with nonprofit organizations and schools, senior centers, to bring financial education to nonprofits who are serving certain areas. So my role is definitely it wouldn't be a traditional bank role that you would think of. There's not many of my position, but it is a non-traditional position. In my background, my undergrad is in marketing, my master's degree is in theology. So I have a very diverse educational background, and then came into my position to serve the community.
Awesome. Awesome. Exciting. So yeah, if you guys are interested in marketing or communications who are watching this call, there is a job for you at a bank. Just have to find those listings, look on the job board for the company that you're interested in. Okay, perfect. Candace, how would you describe your personal brand?
It really goes back to the statement that you asked: see people, not company. I believe that branding is, like some have already said, more than just, hey, your social media, like the video talked about. It's more than just, what you post on Facebook and Twitter. I am a firm believer in my brand is who I interact with every single day, and how I interact with those people. I honestly believe the only reason why I've made it to the level that I've made it, and I'm in the position that I am, and I get to work with the amazing team and leadership that I have now, is because of the personal brand that I created many, many years ago, and that I've stayed true to that branding of keeping people first, and always doing everything I can and working hard as possible, for people whenever asked.
Absolutely. So I know they touched on it in the panel earlier, but of course, having, good social media etiquette is very important when you're getting hired. But I think LinkedIn is something that I know that I wasn't really even, well, it wasn't that big of a, I don't even know if it was a big thing at all when I was in high school, but I know in college, it was in a grad school class, they required us to build and create a LinkedIn profile. That was a part of one of our classes. So I know that maybe not everybody has that experience, especially if students go to a trade school or learn a skill. Vanessa, this is for you. Why do you believe LinkedIn is important? And are there any kind of tips or tricks that you could give a potential new hire to stand out in the crowd of, several, entry-level personal or possible employees?
Yeah, sure. Well, I love LinkedIn because, there are people that are sharing information. I think that we definitely learn from others. And so LinkedIn is there. It can kind of it gets away from when you're on TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest. I love Pinterest, Facebook. It just shares information that's related to business. And that's what I love about it, the connection. You can definitely reach out to people. You can learn more about their roles. And that's just a way to connect with people. I know when I was in high school, when I was figuring out what I wanted to do, I would set up informational interviews. And during that time, LinkedIn wasn't available. So I had to actually get introduced another way. It's just there, it's very accessible. And I feel like most people are willing to help. They're willing to give guidance about their roles. So I think it's important just for the connection.
Absolutely. I think mentorship is huge. And again, when I was, graduating from high school and college, LinkedIn was, I wasn't really aware of it until I got to grad school. But now, I mean, in the age of social media, like all the students watching, you are in a great position to literally, you can search what company you want to work for, Regions Bank, Frost Bank, and you can see a list of employers or employees in your area that have a position and a title of a job that you might be interested in. And you can just LinkedIn message them right then and there. So I would definitely say create a profile if you haven't already, get some headshots. You can have ones taken by, maybe aspiring photographers. iPhone 12s, I feel like have a pretty good camera nowadays. But I think the big thing is to create a LinkedIn profile and start connecting, start, mining relationships, looking within, companies you're interested in and really seeing where you could fit and then just making those connections. I agree with you, Vanessa. I don't think I know anybody that I've connected with LinkedIn who wasn't, more than happy to help or offer some advice. So that's one piece of advice I would impose on the students watching. Okay, Tristan. So I think a big part of networking, of personal brand is your impression, your first outward impression to potential employers. What are some good networking tips that you take into any kind of like networking and professional development event? And what are those? If you could please share them.
Sure. I think how you present yourself is very important when you're networking. What you wear, how you dress, how you speak, your confidence, to just your ability to speak up, articulate what you're trying to say, and even listening, being an active listener in those spaces, being willing to just ask the questions is sometimes the biggest hurdle to get over, and making those introductions. But yes, I would definitely say just pay attention to what you wear. Make sure you have, if you have business cards, great. If you don't, you just want to at least have a way that you can easily receive information. So maybe a business card holder for you to collect business cards. And then you always want to definitely, when networking, follow up is a big thing. So when you get those cards, you just want to make sure that you email them or send some type of note or follow-up phone call so that you stay in touch and they remember who you are.
Absolutely. And I will say now, again, for everybody watching, a lot of the networking events, especially the public ones, because there are a ton of young professional networking or happy hour events in the Dallas area and most metroplexes. You can usually see who's attending. And so you can almost look at that guest list prior to the event, see if there's somebody you might be interested in connecting with. Of course, you could meet tons of possible great connections at any networking event. But you can also do that as well to get a little bit more comfortable before you go in and put some, faces to names. If there's anybody in specifically that you want to talk to. Great tip on that. I've actually seen people that have like electronic business cards that are like QR codes. So that's also something, especially if you don't, if you're a student, you're a college student, you might not work for a company that, will pay and print cards for you. But you can also get them printed pretty cheap at Staples. I think you can get like 100 for like $15 or $16. So just something to keep in mind. So I have one last question I'm going to ask all of you. They asked it during the panel, but it's one of my favorite questions. So what did you want to be when you grew up at 16? So when you were in high school, the age of all most of the people watching this, what did you want to be? Candace?
Mine was a lawyer. And that was more so, I grew up in a house with quite a bit of children, anywhere from 5 to 10, depending. And I didn't have a voice as much. So I didn't normally get to argue or win arguments. I was quieted a lot. And I loved how they got to debate and how assertive they were. But again, going back to the point of them saying, hey, try to experience, think about what you want to be, kind of test it out. I didn't necessarily test it out, but when I learned how much reading they had to do, I realized then lawyer wasn't for me.
A lot of reading and writing. People sometimes assume it's like, Law and Order and you're just debating all the time, but it's a lot of reading and writing. Vanessa?
The same. I wanted to be an attorney. I actually, like I said, I did an informational interview with the local law firms there, and I went into the actual courtrooms because you can sit in certain cases you can sit in. And I was on the debate team in high school. It was called the Government's Club. But I love the aspects of helping, advocating for others, which is why, but then I kind of found it to be a little boring. When I went to college, and so I transitioned to public relations because you're still advocating, you're still a liaison for either a client or whomever. So that's why I made that transition.
Awesome. Tristan?
So all I really knew at 16 was I wanted to be exactly like my aunt, who I looked up to a lot. And she was an engineer. She was at Delta. She went to Stanford. She ran track. She was just all the things. Okay. And I wanted to be just like her. And so I said I wanted to be an engineer, but those kind of last 2 years of high school, and I really got to explore a little bit more of who I was. And what I realized was that I didn't have to follow in someone else's footsteps, but that I could really create my own. So I did a lot of just kind of soul searching and getting involved in a lot of different groups. And I did a lot of serving with my church and a lot of serving with different organizations. And I realized, like, wow, I'm really passionate about this. And this could be a career. I could literally just serve people for a living. This would be amazing. And work with nonprofits. And that's exactly what I do. I just happen to do it under a bank umbrella, and I love it.
Awesome. Thank you, all of you, for volunteering today. I definitely know I learned some things. I hope all the students watching did as well. So again, thank you to our sponsors, Iberia Bank, Frost Bank, and Regions Bank. I'm going to turn it back over to my colleague, Zainab Hamid.
Awesome. Thank you guys again so much for joining us today. Again, I hope everybody learned something new today, and another round of applause to Iberia Bank, Frost Bank, and Regions Bank for hosting this session. Now I am going to give all the students another minute to fill out the post-session survey. Again, you will be entered to win a raffle if you complete both surveys. So take this minute to complete the form, and we'll announce the winners later this week. All right, so while everybody's working on that, you can also follow us on social media. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn at JA Dallas or Junior Achievement of Dallas. Now, if you enjoyed this session, we do have our final session happening next Tuesday from 4 to 5 p.m. Again, we're going to have an incredible group of women joining us from many industries. So make sure to tune in to session 7. We will be discussing how to smash the glass ceiling. So it's going to be a really interesting conversation with many interesting businesswomen around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So make sure to tune in for that. And again, thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you to our sponsors, our volunteers, and our students. I hope to see you all next week and have a wonderful day.